On this week's episode, GM's new marketplace, Lamborghini is making an SUV, the cars we drove at the track this week, and your questions on the Mazda CX-9. Plus, what is Jake drinking? Next on Talking Cars. Hi everyone, welcome to another edition of Talking Cars with Consumer Reports. I'm Mike Quincy.
I'm Jake Fisher.
And I'm Ryan Pizlakowski.
So before we get into all things automotive, we've got some really great news for you for the fans of Talking Cars. We've been given the green light to do an episode every single week, which means, of course, there's going to be tons of automotive stuff that we can talk about. We'll get more feedback from you guys, and that'll leave a lot of work for us. So, hey, welcome to the good news. And then we can get into what's going on in the automotive world, which the first thing on the docket is GM's marketplace. Now, this is GM's attempt to somehow integrate your phone with your car to an even deeper level. So, Jake, can you tell us about it? And is this a good thing or a bad thing?
Okay, well, what it is, it's not even going to your phone. So we've seen the integrating your phone and the apps and stuff, and like, oh, go, find gas stations and whatnot with your phone. Here, they're kind of doing it all right there in the car. And, so it's got little features like I could go pay for gas, or I could go find a Dunkin' Donuts and order a donut, I guess, if I've ordered that before. But, there's obviously some convenience there, but really this is about marketplace. This is about GM getting into the transaction. So what it'll do is it'll actually give you ads while you're driving. It knows where you are.
Yeah, I think the key word is market.
Right, right.
Exactly.
And captive audience.
Yeah.
And captive audience. And where we're getting to is, as driving becomes less engaging, we're seeing it's a march towards autonomous vehicles. Mm-hmm. While you're in there, you're a captive audience, right, and getting ads. And we've seen this before. I mean, anyone who uses Waze, they're probably familiar with you're stopped, and all of a sudden it's like, ooh, 20% off at the local
right
place. In my head, it's like almost this march towards this dystopic future of, you see WALL-E when all the people are sitting there on those loungers and they're going along and they're, drinking their big super gulps or whatever it is, and they're being served ads and advertisement all the time. Right. I mean, maybe this is what we're eventually leading to with the autonomous future.
Right, yeah. and like WALL-E, it'll be so much work to walk from the chair to the door.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think we've successfully added another thing to the list of distractions in cars.
And Ryan, you had a chance to kind of fiddle around with it a little bit yesterday.
I did. I thought it was more in depth. It's basically, you have an app on your phone, and then it's just transposed onto the screen. So you can only really order something that you've recently ordered off your app, or a favorite. I guess you can have a favorite on, so you can push, while you're driving, you can push, I want a coffee, whatever coffee you had yesterday, and that's it. You're not scrolling through a menu and figuring, which is good because it's not as distracting, but it's almost a little bit gimmicky to me. I mean, I don't. Right, real convenience is a coffee coming through the cup holder. You know what I mean?
Well, look, I mean, Ryan's got a couple of really good points here, because one, there are apps available that have a little bit more control over there. Here, where they're doing it all kind of on the control head, and they're trying to do it right through GM, so you don't have to go through your app.
Which is good, yeah.
And they can make it a little less distracting. And that's the kind of thing. They're trying to make it less distracting, but of course that cuts down on your possibilities.
Right.
So you can only order the same kind of donut or whatever it is that you've ordered before. Right. So it cuts down trying to be, but again, it's less functional. And to that point, it's like, in my opinion, we're at the infancy of this, right? So there could be conveniences. Like, for instance, you could pay for your gas over at, there's like two retailers that it allow you to do. Right. But it's not truly convenient and integrated. Right. Getting back to this. If I could roll up to a gas station and I start pumping gas, and it knows I'm at the gas station and pays for me, that's good. But now I got to go there and click through and say okay and whatever. It's not where it needs to be.
Because GM says it's designed to be used while driving to minimize manual interactions. And yes and no, sort of. Is that, you finding that?
Well, for me, I wouldn't be doing that anyway. So now there's almost a reason to go be distracted. For me, I mean, this is going to be good for some people that every morning they have their same coffee or whatever they get, right, and they just push a button, I guess, on their way. I don't. It's just not for me. But through the menus though, there's other stuff in there. There's a 7-Eleven, I guess we'll call it an app or a button. but you click on it and it's an ad.
Right.
There's buy 2 Snapples, get 1 free or something, and then there's directions to directions and then email. You can't do anything else with that.
It seems to be more about a revenue stream than it really is about
it's helping
right
GM as much as anything.
Yeah.
Okay, on to the next bit of news that we've got. There's been a bit of buzz about the new Lamborghini SUV, and I'm going to mess up the pronunciation. It's the Urus.
Urus. And there's other ways to pronounce it. I would not recommend doing that on a recorded show.
Right. But I mean, this is SUV, 650 horsepower, some self-driving assist, maybe a $200,000 price tag. I mean, Ryan, is this such a cardinal sin for a manufacturer like this to be producing an SUV?
I don't think so. The price tag's ridiculous, but you mentioned this the other day. One of Porsche's top sellers is the Cayenne, and that makes sense then, right? I mean, the SUVs are popular, and it's good looking. It's 650 horsepower. It's
bound to be entertaining.
Absolutely.
Does the world need another, 650 horsepower, $200,000 SUV?
Dating myself. I mean, today's my birthday, so I'm very aware of how old I am. But I mean, when I was a kid, I had a Countach poster along with probably.
I thought you were going to say you had a Countach.
Yeah,
with a space there.
Jake had a very privileged upbringing. But
I can dream. But I don't think I'm going to have the Urus poster, or any kids are going to have that.
Right.
And look, you both are absolutely right. They're going to sell a lot of these, or. Oh no! They're gonna sell more. It's gonna be Lamborghini's best seller. I was gonna
say the Cayenne doesn't cost $200,000.
Right.
This is an extreme case.
They'll sell more of these probably than the other. But I don't know if that's a metric of success. So I mean, back in the early '80s, Cadillac came out with the Cimarron, which was a rebadged Cavalier, and that was, guess what? Cadillac's best seller.
Right.
I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing. And look, I mean, I remember, remember the Lamborghini LM002,
right,
in the 80s, and this was like this really nuts, kind of half military vehicle. Right. This is not a throwback to this.
Right. No.
This is basically an Audi A7 with a different body and a little bit different engine. And it's not a Lamborghini, unfortunately.
Right. And they're just kind of jumping on the bandwagon because Bentley has SUVs now,
of course,
Maserati, Alfa Romeo, the whole thing.
It does too. It brings some excitement. I mean, you don't hear much from Lamborghini. It seems like, unless there's some one of those crazy supercars that's just way out there. But
I've got a 13-year-old boy, and believe me, I hear a lot about Lamborghini.
I guess.
And
in our world, we don't.
Too.
But,
I mean,
Aventador,
Diablo,
right? Yeah.
Urus? Oh, come on.
The name is.
And it shows you a level of automotive history, because on social media they're saying Lamborghini is making an SUV. Oh my gosh! And I'm typing, it's actually not their first SUV, and people are like, what?
Right. That is true.
Anyway, so from the extreme to the very much not extreme, at the track this week we're going to talk about a few cars. One of them, which is much less money than $200,000, is the Kia Rio. Has joined our test fleet. This car is it's not getting a lot of love these days. I mean, what's going on with the Kia Rio?
I like the car. I'm sorry. It's like.
I'll tell you the problem.
What's the problem? And here's the problem. The problem is that we can't get miles on the car.
Well, that's
because we need to get people driving the car every day, and it's like.
That is a problem.
What's going on?
It doesn't have heated seats, and it doesn't have a heated steering wheel.
That's true.
And it has hubcaps.
That's true.
Oh,
hubcaps.
No,
we can't have hubcaps.
No, that's how much is that thing? I forget.
It's about $17,500.
Okay, so all joking aside, that car is almost a breath of fresh air, because it has a real key that you put in the ignition. It has a regular automatic shifter. There's no distractions. It has an actual e-brake handle. You drive this car. It has a regular radio, manual climate, and it's pretty fun to drive. I mean, it's a basic car, but it's like nowadays I almost look forward to it.
And because I'm such a dedicated employee of this organization, I drove it last night, and being that this is crazy dark daylight savings time hours. Who likes it when it gets dark at 4:30 in the afternoon? But anyway, so it makes you get into a car at night, which means that you have to reorientate yourself. How do I adjust the seat? How do I adjust the radio? How do I adjust the climate controls? And to your point,
it's easy.
Everything is so easy.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So we have a $17,000 car that's easier to operate than some of our $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 luxury vehicles. And I've never understood, why does a really expensive car have to be complicated to operate?
Well, they put a lot of junk stuff. Here's the problem: is like, can you order your Dunkin' Donuts for a car? No.
Perfect.
Can you adjust the radio by using hand controls? No. Right. Do you need to do any of that? No. But it's like, no. To me, it reminds me of kind of what I was driving when I was a teenager. You know, my parents' Mazda 323. You know, which is kind of like small, nimble, 82 horsepower, and you know, I had a Rabbit. You know, it's like, it reminds me of just like something small and nimble and placeable, and it's like more of the more new cars, you know, just like it's driving and you're sort of controlling. Right. But it's like, I feel like I'm controlling.
You drive this car, and it's not exhilarating, but
it's nothing to show your friends.
Right. But it's fun. I think it suffers, you know, it doesn't get the mileage because it is small. It doesn't have a huge trunk. Like, it's not the most practical thing, but it's a decent car.
And I'll say something to kind of like, for all the people who aren't driving it a lot here, you know, and I think we're just getting over the 2,000 mile mark, that we could actually do something.
By the way, there's pressure for people working here. Get in the Rio and drive it, for goodness sake.
I'm guilty of it.
But here's the issue, is that you drive it once, and you fill in the logbook, and you've experienced everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas you get these complex cars. Okay, well, I didn't go into the level 7 of the menu and the new adaptive cruise control, and I didn't experience. So it's like, you know what you need to know about the car.
The car kind of maxes out at a certain point, whereas some cars we get, like the last Jaguar sedan we had, the Alfa Romeo Giulia. The first impression is like, I don't know, but then you kind of drive it a few more times, and it grows on you, and you learn more about it, and you maybe start to appreciate it or something like that. And I think you're right. It definitely tops out.
It is what it is. It's an honest car. It's like, okay, got it.
And other vehicles that we've just recently published first drives on consumerreports.org are our first drives of the GMC Terrain and the Buick Enclave, which we touched on before about GM Marketplace. So the Terrain, we kind of said this stuff. It's lacking in some key areas, you know, such as ride comfort, handling, and cabin noise. You know, Jake, what's the Terrain missing, you think?
Well, I mean, I think it's less about what it's missing, but just the market it's in. I mean, it just so happens that you get, you know, small SUVs. I mean, you look at GM has just been really late to the party, kind of in a kind of that real, you know, heart of the market of the small SUVs, right. And that is a very developed, mature market, and you got some great players. You know, everything from RAV4, CX-5 now, which is a real big player now. You know, CR-V. It's tough. It's tough there.
Good enough isn't good enough anymore. Because it's kind of like it's good, but it's not exceptional in any particular way.
And there's a lot of exceptional vehicles in that market.
Right. Now, but for the Enclave, you know, it's pretty big, it's pretty quiet, but it's there's a few details that are lacking. You know, Ryan, what do you? Is this like a snoozer kind of SUV to drive?
Yeah, it's mundane. It's just there's no excitement to it. None. There's little excitement to it. And the interior is pretty basic. It just reminds me of another Buick SUV. Like
right.
It doesn't. You know what I mean? It doesn't. There's no.
It's not meant to be engaging
like
that
the only
much.
thing really new about it is this, you know, the infotainment, the marketplace kind of thing. But it's just like.
But you got to figure out. It's like, what is it though? I mean, what that is it's a minivan that's kind of...
You're not allowed to say that word.
It's a minivan in disguise. So it really is kind of playing its own... So if you want a minivan, but you don't want to be seen in a minivan, it says it's an SUV, but it is super roomy and it actually drives really nice.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you're looking at a Sienna or a whatever and Pacifica and you're like, I don't really want to be in a minivan, it's a good choice and it's got four-wheel drive and it drives a lot smaller than it is. Yeah, and that's always has, even the previous generation.
Even the Terrain, both of these vehicles drive quite nicely.
Right.
I mean, they're basic. I shouldn't say basic. They're just regular. There's no, they're not real sporty or anything like that.
Yeah,
and it really
that's okay.
I think that's right. It's all about like what else can you get in that market? What else can you get that the Terrain can do? Well, there's a whole lot of choices.
Yeah.
What else can you get that the Enclave can do? Not so much.
Right.
So it actually is a better
and really to wrap up these two things, that one of the recurring themes that we wrote about with both the Terrain and the Enclave is a lot of money for basically what you're getting. That kept coming up over and over.
That's a downside to me.
And speaking of Kia, because we started off the segment talking about Kia, the company stopped by with the new Kona and Stinger, and we're going to have more on that next week. So please stay tuned.
I drove the Stinger last night.
And
it looks nice.
No, we're supposed to.
Oh, we're going to save it. We're going to save that.
But yeah, my kid, I dropped my kid off. That's why I'm a little late. But I dropped my kid off at school with it, and he's like, "Wow, that car's really nice." It's a Kia.
Yeah.
He's 9, and he's like, "Why would a Kia look like that?" And the thing's red, and we got the GT.
Even he knows the difference between brands. So we'll save this joke, but later in the next episode of Talking Cars, we'll have more buzz on the Stinger.
Oh my.
Okay, so on the last segment is your questions. We always want to hear from the folks out there. We had one comment after the LA Auto Show, and the comment was, "I keep hearing Consumer Reports talking about the Mazda CX-9 having issues with the engine, but they won't say what the problem is. And why is it that CR is the only outlet claiming this issue? What's going on?" Oh, we talk about the Mazda's engine?
Well, I mean, we're the only outlet kind of talking about the reliability of the CX-9 because we're the only outlet that has a lot of reliability information about the CX-9. So, I mean, I was just looking at some of the numbers, and we've got well over 100 CX-9s in our survey. And it's kind of a new engine for them, and they do have some issues with them. We have comments too when people do the reliability survey, and we provide those too on our site for subscribers. And one person has already had the engine rebuilt. Another person had a problem with it was like a crimped coolant hose, so the thing was overheating. I think they're growing pains. Whenever you put a new powertrain or change a whole bunch of stuff.
This was kind of expected, I feel like. I mean, like you said, it's the first year of something, usually there's some issues.
Right, and we see this with every manufacturer, and so they change it a lot. It's kind of a lot of new stuff for them. And so it's not just the engine problems with the CX-9. We've seen other issues too. There were some body issues. I mean, just trim. There was the infotainment system was a little wonky for some few people, but hopefully, I mean, with Mazda does a pretty good job.
Next year, I think they'll straighten it out.
Next year, I do think they'll straighten it out.
Well, that kind of really does it for this episode of Talking Cars.
Well, one more thing. I got to say, this is tea. This is green tea. Just, I'm not condoning talking about cars while intoxicated.
I'm sure a lot of people are saying, what is a glass of gasoline doing on Talking
Cars?
Only
Jake
set?
puts tea in a pint.
and I'm sure it's high test.
Very good.
As far as future shows go, we really want to get your feedback. We want to know your questions. We want to know your comments. And you can make it real easy by just taking a video with your phone. Something like this. Hey everybody, Talking Cars. I'm hoping this message gets to you. I'm thinking about maybe buying this Subaru over here or maybe this Hyundai. I can't really decide. I hope this message gets to you. Maybe even that handsome guy, Mike Quincy, in Talking Cars. Anyway, love your show. Thanks. And once you do this awesome video of your car and your questions, you can go to consumerreports.org/talkingcars. It's really easy to upload. And as always, if you want to find out more about the cars that we talked about in this show, go to the show notes below. Thanks so much for tuning in.